Back to my channel. So in today's video, I will be sharing some of the books that I read during my quarantine period. So as I told you in my last video, I was tested COVID positive on January 26th and it took me 1 full month to recover. 4 weeks of rest totally was indeed needed. That is when I realized my immunity is very weak and decided to work on it, which I am working on my health right now. And also I am recovering in a better way. I am doing much better now. So able to do my daily chores without any problem. So in that quarantine period, since I was in one room, only one room, I have to be there whole day, night. So I utilized my time to read some of the books. And again here I was not very much in the mood to read some serious stuffs or might be some non-fiction. I was not in that state of mind to read such books. So I chose some light-hearted, some humorous or some very light read. So I could read 5 books, not much, because again I was not able to concentrate because of the severe headache and the tiredness, the fatigue that I had. So with whatever I could do, I read 5 books in 4 weeks of time. So I shall discuss what are the books that I read, and it's a very light read. It's very easy on you to finish reading it. So that's why I thought I will share all the books that I have read in during my quarantine period. Okay, so the first book that I read was When Love Came Calling by Preeti Shenoy. This is a young adult fiction story of Arush and Pooja, two teenagers who are in their late teens or they are in their early 20s, who are from a very different background, 2 different countries actually, and how they meet, how they fall in love, how they tackle with their parents. And also this book addresses one major issue that teenagers will have with their parents. I'm not saying all teenagers, but teenagers who are not very close to their parents or who are not always in constant, their proper communication when it is not there between a teenager and their parents. What is the differences that is going to create right from their childhood, how they have been affected by their parents. So Pooja, the main protagonist of the story, didn't have a very good childhood because both her parents were working and she had to spend more time with her Ai than her mother, and her mother was quite strict with her because she was not that good in studies. So mother was always behind her back saying that you have to do this, you have to do that. So she kind of grew in that environment where she didn't have any close friends, and obviously she'll fall in love with Arush, who had come down to India for some of his painting or for his internship actually. And then you can see how the story goes on and how this might be with some slight misunderstanding what might happen in a love story, and then how parents should understand the situation, how kids or these teenagers should understand their parents. So that issue is addressed very nicely here. The story is built very beautifully and it's a great one-time read. You can buy this on Amazon. The book is available on Amazon for a very good price, I can say. It's a young adult fiction, easy read, romantic book. So if you feel like reading something light-hearted, you can definitely pick this book up. And I think for some it can be, you can finish it in one sitting. Rather, I took 2 to 3 sittings to finish this book. But I feel that this book was good read. The next book that I read was The Girl Who Knew Too Much by Vikrant Khanna. So this book I bought in my Flipkart sale last year, and it was in the it was a box set of thriller books which had other 2 Indian authors also. So I picked this one up. So this is kind of an open ending, or it is kind of an open ending. It depends on the person who is reading the book. So here in the initially itself, the author has asked whether you are a believer or a cynical. So if you are a believer, then the ending is different for you. If you are cynical, that is if you don't believe in God, then the ending is different for you. But this again, since it is it is like a protagonist is narrating a story to a child who has lost her mother recently and she will be weeping in a park. So that person comes and narrates his life story, and then there is a major turn in the book when the person is narrating his life story. He is Harry, who is narrating the story to a small kid who is of 8 years old called Akshara, who has lost her mother recently, and she would be weeping in the park. She would be praying for her mother to come back. So Harry narrates an interesting story that has happened in his life, where again it is a love story between Sahiba and Siddharth, and he will tell that what has happened in their life, or how they lost their loved ones. So I will not give much spoilers here, because it is a thriller, I can say, but not a murder mystery or anything like that. When you read, there are some points in the book you feel like, what just happened? How is this possible? So there are few instances in the books like that. And here the author initially only he will mention you that if you are a believer, an ending for you is different, and if you are cynical, an ending is different for you. If you do not believe in God, then there is something else you can take from this book, or if you are a believer in God, then there is something else for you in this book. So it is again one time read, good book, a different concept. Okay, the concept is not just mere love story here, it's a different concept altogether. So I feel like you can give this a try and read this book. And the third book and that I read was Mrs. FunnyBones by Twinkle Khanna. Now I don't know what exactly to tell about this book. This book hardly took me 2 to 2.5 hours to finish reading it, because see, the book looks thick, but what I felt was pages like this between the chapters is anyways blank, and if you see closely, only this much part of the book is printed, whereas all these ends are wasted. That is the only reason the book looks thick. Actually the book you can finish within 2 hours in just one sitting. I felt kind of bad, why to waste pages just to make sure that your book is quite thick enough. I don't know what is the whole point of printing it like this. Rather you could have printed it in lesser pages. Now this book is nothing that great. There is no continuity to her life events, whatever. Actually she has written all the life events that have happened in her life, Twinkle Khanna, but I did not feel it was that good, or writing style was not very effective for me. I have read a similar book by Tahira Khanna Kashyap, The 12 Commandments of Being a Woman, and she has mentioned clearly 12 incidents that has happened in her life plus one bonus incident. That also I finished it in one sitting, but every incident that she had mentioned had a takeaway in that. It had some lesson at the end of the story that she was telling. It was quite motivating, and it was also very funny in between. Initially few chapters were very funny when she was explaining about her childhood or her teenage days. But I did not feel that. I felt something was missing in this book. Because I already knew that it had mixed reviews. Some just said that randomly it is like a diary that she has written, where there is no connection between the incidents that she is talking about. Few of them were very nice. Few of them I felt was not actually needed to be put in this book. It was nothing great. So this is the third book that I read. Then the next interesting of all the books that I have read is Sophie Kinsella's The Undomestic Goddess. This is the first book that I read by Sophie Kinsella, and I have heard too much about this particular author that she is very, very good. And yes, she is very good in this book. This story is about Samantha, who is a lawyer, a very famous lawyer in London, who earns a very good amount as her salary. Then something happens and she has to quit that job, and then suddenly she lands up as a domestic help to to a middle-aged couple in a city or in a village somewhere in London, whereas she has never even made a cup of tea for herself in her lawyer career. Now she is becoming a domestic helper who has to take care of all the chores of the house for that couple. So it is very witty, it is very, very fun read. Yes, the book is small, but the fonts are also too small. It took me quite some time to finish this book, and books also had some around 400 pages, 450 pages. So, but English is simple, the language is easy. Even a beginner like me, I could read it. So any beginner like me will be definitely able to read this book. It is very, very nice. Guys, please, if you get this book, I highly, highly recommend. Out of the lot, this is my first recommendation that you have to read it. It is very fun, yet it is sometimes emotional at the end. There is a nice progress in the story. All the subplots have come very nicely, and some revelations at the ending are also very nice. So please do give this a try if you find this book. And the last book that I finished reading is the most anticipated book, The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. It's a very good thriller. Again, the language is simple. So this book is based in London again. It is, the protagonist of the book is called Rachel. So she travels from one place to another, from Ashbury to some other place in London every day in the train. And while she is traveling, there is a particular stop where train stops for a few minutes, and that is when she will see Megan and her husband who stay across the street. So she thinks that they are a very happy couple, and Megan is very lucky to have Mark as her husband. But then suddenly one day Megan disappears, and she also was there on the same street when she was disappeared. So story begins from there, and there is a lot of twists and turns. Sometimes you just feel like, what just happened? But what happened to me was, almost when I reached 70 to 75% of the book, I could guess who the killer was. I don't know, if I guess the killer before the book ends or before the movie ends, I feel disappointed. I'm like, oh shit, I could guess the killer. It should be like a very big surprise for me. But the point when I guessed the killer, I was like, okay, he's the killer, and this is what has exactly happened to her. So, and I could actually, the same thing happened at the end of the book. But I must say that it is very page turner. It is very interesting thriller. Of course, it is a very good thriller, and even the movie now has been released on Netflix. You can watch that, but I highly recommend you to read the book first, and then if you want, you can watch the movie. So guys, please do give this a chance. Very good thriller book. So these are the 5 books that I read in my quarantine period. So right now I am reading 2 books. That is Something I Never Told You by Shravya Binder, and sorry, I don't have the book now, and Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. So about these books I will be talking in my next video. That will be a March wrap-up video, which will be done in the first week of April. So before that, I will also come up with other book recommendations. So please stay tuned to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, share and comment on this video, and keep watching, keep reading. Bye bye.